Hello friends, I'm Beatriz. I'm your host here on Beatriz's Book Nook, and today we are going to be talking about, a topic that might seem a little bit controversial, which is going to be not reading. Yes, you heard it right. We are going to be talking about on a booktube channel about not reading. So lately I have been looking a lot into these kind of topics, and I felt like people and actually a lot of booktubers are always with a book in hand, and they are also constantly reading. But I have been feeling that not everyone is maybe like that. Although, yes, also always with a book in hand. I always have kind of like a book in the back of my mind. But there are days, there are times that I am honestly not reading for the whole day or actually at all for that day. So, this brought me into thinking of this topic and why I believe not reading can be beneficial for us, depending on the time and on the moment in life that we are in. So, yeah, with this topic of not reading in mind, let's dive into it and let me share what I actually thought of it, because I feel like I have quite some good points and quite a good discussion for you here. I want to start by saying this, but honestly, this might just be me, which probably it is, but I have started to feel like some people will almost criticize you if you are not reading, but you are considering yourself a reader. So, in here, I want to give a few insights. One, reading is not a productivity metric. Most of us read for fun and to distract ourselves from a stressful day. The second point that I want to make here is that sometimes not reading all the time makes us enjoy it more and discover a lot more fun and discover a lot more books and entertainment in it again. For example, I feel like I am in kind of a slump, or at least I have been kind of in a slump throughout all these years. Throughout this year, I have made a lot of breaks. I have been having a lot of days where I'm not reading, and I think that a reading slump is a good example of how not reading can reignite the spark that you have for reading. So, for example, you are trying various books, none of them catches your eye, none of them catches your attention. Maybe you feel like it's time to take a break, or you keep pushing yourself. But for me, recently, I just feel like it is better to take a break so that you can kind of reset your mind, kind of reset your mood, and better understand, okay, maybe this was not the right path. Maybe I was not feeling that book as much as I was thinking. And then you will take that time, you will try other hobbies, maybe fall in love for them, and when you come back to reading, you will be in love with reading again, because honestly, I feel like that is the whole point. So to me, reading is not a metric for productivity. I read for enjoyment. I read because I want to read, unless I am taking part in some sort of readathon where, yes, at that point, to be honest, reading is going to be productive because my team is going to be winning, or I'm going to be making the most out of that period of time. But overall, not reading is not like you are doing anything or like you are not loving reading, but our brains do need a break after being constantly doing the same thing, because we end up being fatigued and our focus goes out of the window as well. This constant pressure to always be reading also comes from social media, to be honest. Besides reading all the time, we also consume bookish content, such as on TikTok, Instagram, or even YouTube, which a lot of us do. And this constant input in our brains ends up honestly tiring us. And then the worst thing might happen, which is a reading slump. And why do I believe social media might be a cause of all of the reading slumps nowadays? Because you are always seeing the content creators, they are always advocating, they are always showing how much they read. They never actually show how little they read in certain days. So all of the content that they share with us, that they share online, it's them reading a book one day, reading and finishing a book the other day. So they are always constantly finishing new book every single time you see them on screen, and that then makes us feel like, well, I'm not achieving as much. And when you start reading, maybe your pace is lower, such as mine, you start to feel like, well, I am being too slow. And then our brain, with this constant input and with this constant information of you have to be reading all the time, our brain starts to get tired. And honestly, I am not sure what comes into it, but at some point it shuts down. It's like, well, you are comparing yourself kind of situation to others. What if I put you not reading? Because that has happened to me in the past for sure. So I was reading not less, but at a slower pace, which is something that I have been trying to do. And then my brain decided, well, you are comparing yourself with your friends, with the people that are able to read every single day at every hour of the day. So what if you don't read? And then I went into a reading slump. I was a bunch of months, not a bunch of months, but at least 2 weeks without reading. And when I came back to it, I just thought, well, this is why I love reading. I was able to enjoy it again. I was able to love it again. And especially, I am now able to come to it with a different perspective, one that allows me to basically focus on the enjoyment of reading instead of how much I am reading. Because at the end of the day, I feel like that is the goal of reading and enjoying and sharing everything in my path with you, is enjoying what I'm reading, sharing with you books that I'm loving, and well, sometimes books that I'm also not enjoying. This constant input of social media and content creators, and without even talking about the constant information that you are receiving from everywhere, mostly from social media, of the new releases, book hauls, and wrap-ups that these content creators put out, it makes us thinking maybe I'm not reading enough. That is for sure. And this is not true. We all, as I have said before, have different lives, we have different schedules, we have different time frames and spaces to read. And with this, we definitely, well, depending on your schedule, you can make time for not reading, because not reading is very useful. I have discovered some of my favorite books after a big period of me not reading for a long time. I have discovered some of the worst books when I am forcing myself to read. So yeah, I think there should be a good balance between reading and not reading. So I have also said this before, I believe it's time people stop judging others and how much you read, either it be a lot or not at all. I have seen situations that I am completely disgusted with people in the internet, not with me personally, but with some friends of mine, where they have been kind of judged for how much they read. And I'm always like, well, I wish I was like you, but I'm not. I have a different reading pace, I have a different mind, and yeah, I just decide and I just enjoy the time frames that I take to not read, because honestly, those are what reminds me why I love reading so much. The energy to read is something that it's not constant, as well as everything in life fluctuates, and people have different hobbies, more hobbies besides reading, even if reading is the main one. So all your passions feed themselves and feed our souls. That's why I believe sometimes not reading can be freeing. Not reading can give you a space for you to try something else, can give you a space for you to enjoy something other than reading. Because I also believe there should be a good balance between us reading all the time, but also between us reading here and there and enjoying life and how it should be. So yeah, and my my goal with this video is not telling you, well, stop reading, you shouldn't be doing that. Obviously, I wouldn't be a booktube channel, or I wouldn't love talk about books if I was going to say to you that I love that you read. I love to know about all the things that you are reading and all of the information for your reading tastes. But the one thing, and my goal with this video, is that you take with you the fact that you don't stop being a reader if you also stop reading. But that is something that needs to be put out more. That is something that people need to advocate more, because nowadays a lot of content creators and a lot of people that I have seen online do have this mindset put in place, and I don't think it's the right one. I think that's all. I think this is all for today's video. I hope it made sense. At least in my mind it did, but I also know that I can be a little bit scattered brain when I'm talking about certain things, and at some point I will not make sense of what I'm saying. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Let me ask you one last thing. What are your thoughts on not reading? What do you feel like not reading is about? And do you also believe that not reading does not make you a reader? So, yeah. Thanks so much for being here, friends. I love you all, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, friends!